Hello, hello, hello. Welcome to Strike a Match. I am Terry Finnegan Lynch and very, very happy to be here. We are producing our 6th episode today, and Strike a Match is the invitation to take a little bit of action and find the right match for you to make positive changes in your life. So I want to welcome you for being here and listening to this podcast. And if you're watching it on YouTube, fantastic. We love that medium as well. Most importantly, I want to thank Enlightenment Radio for wanting to bring such positivity to their audience and to allow me to be a part of that crusade about health and wellness and being creative about how we can find that. You know, music speaks to the heart. It is the pulse of what we feel and you know where we are. Music is very representative of our essence, right? So to expand into other models of care, as the great Doc P is doing in SM Enlightenment Radio, is truly an honor to be a part of. So here we are in episode 6. I'm so excited. So ordinarily I tell you about who I am and why I do what I do, but we're going to mix it up this week. And we're going to start with our cartoon corner. So welcome to today's cartoon. So here it is. Don't tell me you're okay. You're not okay. I can smell the hurt inside you. Don't walk away. Talk to me. Beware of emotional support dog. Life coaching, the support you may want to avoid. So why start with humor? Well, it's good for us. It's good to laugh, right? But it also is the opportunity to look at, like, what am I holding on to that, is kind of funny, maybe a little foolish, but a resistance that's really important to me, Took me forever to make the changes I needed to make in my life to make a real difference in my life. I was 45 when I got sober, and I drank for 25 years. So, hey, I walked by a fence like that for a very long time because it was just too scary. If you look at this guy's eyes, he's just straightforward. I'm not doing this. And I can't tell you how many times I would be in an AA meeting and still drunk. And I would go to the bathroom, and inside the bathroom lavatory door would be a sign that says, are you suffering from domestic violence? And a little tab with a phone number on it. And I was covered in black and blues. And I used the toilet, walked through that door, ignored the help that was right there in front of me. And you know what? It's okay. It's okay, because when we're ready, the shift can actually take place. And when we're not ready and we're still trying, we make incremental changes, but we don't take that big shift. So for 3 years, I was in and out of AA. You know why? I'll tell you why. Because first I would get sober, and 3 months would pass, and the pain of drinking of being sober would get so great that I would want to drink. And then 3 months would pass, and the pain of being drunk would be so great that I'd need to get sober. And I went back and forth and back and forth and back and forth until I was ready. So if you're walking down the street and there's this invitation to consider a better way of life, you can consider it. You can reach out. You can try. You don't have to go all the way. But right here, the reason this is called Strike a Match is just to invite you into a small light of the darkness. And if you can do that, then wonderful. And apparently you are, because you're listening to this podcast, and right there is taking action. So that's my comedy corner for this week. Beware of emotional support dogs and people. So what I'd like to follow this up with is Terry's positive tips for a better life. So here you go. Listen in.
Positive tips for a better life with Terry Finnegan Lynch.
Do you ever hear yourself say, I just can't? Maybe because it's something new, or maybe you've failed before. But what if instead you say, yes, I can? Wouldn't that feel better? Give it a try. I'm a health and life coach, and these are Terry's positive tips.
WSME.
Thank you, the great Doc P. I love his voice, man. That's solid. So on SM Enlightenment Radio are these positive tips for a better life, these little 30-second messages that I record. And they're based on stuff that I coach through. And saying yes is one of the invitations that is not always easy to do. So we can go part way. I could get into the AA meeting, but I couldn't ask truly for help. So when you feel yourself saying no, invite the curiosity of what a yes would feel like in that situation. Yes, I can. When I hear myself say I can't, try saying yes, I can. And it can be about anything. It could be about, not having that piece of cake. It could mean getting up earlier in the morning. It could mean talking to a person that makes you uncomfortable. It could be, anything where we are stuck in that no, I can't. And in doing so, we're safe in the space that's in the no, in that holding back. Yet we're not exploring what a yes would feel like and what the outcome of that would be. So today's positive tip about saying yes is like this man walking down the path. Can we turn our head and consider yes, because there's some great stuff available to us when we say yes. And what could that be? So in what SM Enlightenment Radio is doing is bringing all kinds of positivity to you. And what we're doing here on Strike a Match is introducing the concept, the strategies behind coaching. And it varies from coach to coach, and what your needs are and how a coach approaches their model of care. And what I wanted to do in this broadcast is not just rely on my enthusiasm and passion and conviction that this works, but to also go to other resources to see what are the facts out there about life coaching. So we are celebrating this gentleman, Tom Cassano, for his contribution on the Huff Post, a digital magazine about fun facts about life coaching. And so he had about a dozen, I think, on his article, and I've borrowed one for this week, and it's about balance. So what he says is life coaches help you find balance in your life. So coaches help us see what we're neglecting and bring attention to what we want and deserve. Coaches aren't just guides encouraging you to pour all your energy into one aspect of your life, but actually provide a platform where you can succeed and find happiness in all areas of your life. And that's what's so remarkable about coaching. It helps navigate what I refer to as the big five: health, relationships, career, money, and that which is greater, spirituality. And if you can see in this little image, here are these creative stones that often represent peace and tranquility, and the feather that's just kind of balancing all the rocks. So, when we're doing this alone, we may not realize that it's just something very small that will bring a balance into our life, and a coach can actually do that for us. So what Tom is saying here is that, and what I totally agree with, is coaching is here to elevate all parts of your life and to bring a positive energy to that which is the most important thing. We always start with what is that, that ouch. And then what we find in unveiling the solutions to that problem is that the rest of our life improves as well. So we want to find happiness and health in both our physical and spiritual self, and in our relationships, and certainly in our career. And why we include money in this as a separate entity is that career and money are not one and the same. One creates the other. But money is about value, and who are you, and how do you value your life, and what is your relationship with money? So it's a very curious way that that would be nice to have that wad of money, wouldn't it? But yeah, I mean, like, how cool is that you come and you start to work with a coach about, weight loss, for example, or, a struggle with your children. And in the process, you realize that you actually love what you're doing in your career, but you didn't really appreciate it. And then because of that elevation, you also decide to start a side gig of your own. So maybe you're a teacher and you become a tutor. And that value of who you are in the classroom comes over here, and you are independent, and you're working one-on-one or even in a group, and you become more connected with who you are and what you do so well. And then more money comes in because there's a new value about how you see yourself, So coaching is about bringing balance into all parts of our lives, not just the one that's hurting right now. So for me, it was very, very clear that the domestic violence that I was participating in and the addiction that was destroying my life, yeah, those were a hard stop, But what ended up happening from there was I went to nursing school at 48 years old. I became a Reiki master a few years after that, and a photographer too. And then eventually, turned the page a little bit more to find that this kind of work that I'm doing right now is the best fit for me so far. And I'm 63. Who would have thunk that, 20 years ago when I was in the throes of chaos and pain, that this kind of prosperity would be here for me. But here it is. And so what coaches tend to show you is that what wasn't working in their life brought them to a place where coaching became a very significant part of their healing, and therefore what they can give back to the world. And I love being able to share that here on Strike a Match. So thank you for listening in and considering what we're talking about. So who am I? I've said a little bit about it, but we all have a story. And what's important about our story is that it comes from our perceptions, real or imagined, about our experiences in our life. And when we march through our life without honoring our story, we can become disconnected, we can become resentful, we can become numb to our authentic self. And what I've found in my coaching model is that even though I'm a coach for families, that is my passion. I'm raised a family in a very chaotic, unhealthy place. And it wasn't until my kids were nearly grown that we righted that ship together. And it, we were in crisis, and had been for a very long time. And what I want to do as a coach for families is kind of interrupt that at an earlier stage in the family's experience, so that we get to stay together, we get to understand more about ourselves and each other, and how we got here and how to get where we want to go. So I started this by saying we all have a story. I do. I put mine in a book, Hope is for Always. I was invited to do this collaboration, and the way I wrote my story was to speak about the different people in my life that I came across in sobriety that kind of rattled my cage and that told me that what I was doing needed to be up-leveled. And I kind of needed that like kick in the butt to move the needle in those moments in time in my life. But last week I talked about the first person that I wrote about in this book, which was my son, who really basically said, I'm not going to live like this anymore, Mom. Shape up, ship out. And basically I left that day with the shirt on my back. But my mantra for Brian's experience and what he gave me was, Brian, you saved my life by saving your own. So the next story in my book is a little bit longer, and I'm not going to read the whole thing, but the mantra at the end of this one celebrates the gift of forgiveness. This story celebrates the gift of forgiveness. So in my journey, in my adventure with my husband and my diseases, there was a lot of shame and guilt. I was a drunken mother. That's pretty heavy. And I was blessed with this opportunity to do this Christian thing, and everyone will find their own way. But what I realized is that in this opportunity, this one weekend, I really found forgiveness as the peace that I deserved. So we're very, very comfortable picking up that bat and hitting ourselves over the head with it over and over and over and over and over again. And what happens when we do that is we show up in the world all battered and bruised. When we embrace forgiveness, we show up for the world in grace and in healing. So forgiveness was this incredible gift that I gave myself by, owning what I did and forgiving myself for it, and then not repeating it, right? So forgiveness is not something that gives you permission to just keep misbehaving and making the same mistakes. It's about giving you freedom and separation from the behavior that is tied to the guilt and shame. So my mantra in this part of my story is, whenever I reach out to you, which I'm doing right now, I'm reaching out to you in faith and hope. And it's actually tattooed to my wrist. One way it says faith, and when you turn it upside down, it says hope. Because that experience was so powerful to me as a broken person that I really was able to elevate into a place where I didn't have to go back there. I didn't have to repeat that practice of being deceptive and broken and manipulative and all the things that went along with the dance of that dysfunctional behavior. Forgiveness allowed me to have a clean slate. And the reason I call my story in this book My Classroom of Hope is that this particular weekend, I stood in front of an imaginary blackboard, and I saw all the rules that were so painful for me growing up. Like, you're going to go to hell. And you're a bad kid and you're a bad person. And all of it isn't true. It's not that my family said these things to me. It was what I imagined me to be. So real or imagined, my perception created this story that I then played out and lived in for a very long time. So the importance that my story here, and I'd love for you to have this book. So if you send me an email, I'll send it to you. I'll autograph it for you, and you can explore the author's stories of hope. But today I want to emphasize that one of the greatest gifts we can give ourselves is forgiveness. The last part I wanted to talk about is what stands in the way of many of my clients' success is obstacles, right? And obstacles actually are opportunities. One of the big obstacles that I find is attachments. So people can be attached to people, places, stuff, feelings, ideas, and operating systems. So what do I mean by this? So we can be attached to people, both, in a romantic way, in an obligatory way. We can be attached to our parents. We can be attached to teachers. We can be attached to our friends. And in that obscurity of being attached to people, our autonomy is confused. We don't know who we are. We can be attached to things, whether it be belongings that are really well organized and they're very expensive, or closets full of stuff that we just can't get rid of. We're attached to stuff. We can be attached to places, like I have to go to church every day, or I need to go on vacation, or I'm never going to be happy. We can get attached to places as well. We can be attached to, what else did I have? Ideas. Yeah, so we can have these ideas about who I am and what I'm supposed to do, and the attachment to that can be very disabling. And there's one more. We can be attached to our operating system, and that is being in control, or being the victim, or being a procrastinator. So we can find all of these different ways to be attached to things that stand in the way of new ideas. So in my coaching model, when we are looking at where I am, and we want to celebrate that because we've worked very, very hard to get to where we are today, and that's not a disaster. It's really wonderful. We just want more. And when we go to look at what we want to create, sometimes the reason that we can't create it is that there's an obstacle, an attachment that is standing in the way of accessing it. So part of my program is that we create a space, a separation from that attachment. And I got a wonderful email, text message from one of my clients who was having a really, really hard time with this assignment. She was attached to stuff. And when we were looking at this last week and encouraged an experiential exercise, the next week it wasn't done. And that's okay. Other things were done. But when we went back to and visited the attachment and went into clearing the clutter as the exercise, her heart started racing. There's all these meanings that are a part of that attachment. Feeling safe, feeling that I'm loved in this space, that I belong here. And so today, she did the work, and she sent me a message and said, I did it. And I said, bravo, boom. And then she wrote back, I stood there for 20 minutes staring at it in fear. And just these small things that we're inviting you to do to make space for new ideas, can be very simple, but very hard. So we do this together. So if you can relate to the fact that I'm attached to something, whether it be people, places, things, ideas, these are okay. They're all a part of the system that we've created, the life that we've lived, the way that we've operated. And it's really what holds us stagnant. When you feel stuck, it's likely related to an attachment that won't let you go. And so coaches are able to see that and hold the space to appreciate how important those things are to you, and to invite and give you an exercise that allows for the separation, the space that gives you the freedom to now bring in a new idea. You cannot add water to a full glass, and attachments are a full glass. So if we can create the space for room for more and new stuff, then change is possible. And so that's where these things come together in my coaching practice to help you do that. So I hope that this has been fun for you. My little 30 minutes of introducing fun facts and comedy and positive tips and some practices about how coaching works. And I really do welcome you to send me an email, terryfinneganlynch@gmail.com. I would be happy to send you this book with a message inside of hope, because that's what this broadcast is about. It's what the Great Dog P is trying to convey, is to bring positivity into your life. And I'd like to share that with you anytime. So we're going to break now for our commercials. They're wonderful, encouraging, really cool. So listen in and pay attention to those as well. And we'll see you on the other side. Welcome back. Oh gosh, I love this part of the show. And there's special people that we meet all along the way, and very interesting experience for me was sitting next to Gina at one of these conferences that was supported by my school, HCI, and they said, okay, turn to your left or turn to your right and do this exercise with this complete stranger. And there she was. And, we did this coaching exercise that I'd never seen before. And it was the connection was there. So this part of the show, I like to talk about rapport, and why I call this program Strike a Match. The match is about the connection between you and the person that is here to help you. So, I'm bringing in coaches each week that have very unique stories and experiences, and what they bring to their clients is based on their journey. And Gina's a very, very special gal. She is a clinical social worker and a psychotherapist as a profession. And she has a heart of gold and has a professional practice. And she is a coach. And so what she does is she blends those two skills to help people find their way through some emotional stuff. So when I was looking for a cartoon for today's show, and I found Beware of Emotional Support Dog, I shared this with Gina, and she's like, I got that same cartoon. So without further ado, let's bring Gina to the podcast, and we'll talk about what we do. Hi, Gina.
Hi there. Hi, Terry.
How are you?
I'm good.
It's good
Thanks
to
for
see you.
having me.
You're so welcome. So I thought that funny that we shared the same cartoon, and that's about how things connect, right?
Yes. Yeah. I know. I love that cartoon too because, like you said earlier, this guy is just walking by unaware of what's going on like inside of him and around him. And it is how many people walk through life. And so, and that's part of our work, right? Is to help them tap in and see what's going on and see how they can, be more of a participant in their life.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Wow. So tell me, I know your family and a little bit about who you are and stuff, but please let us know how you came to the coaching experience and what you'd like to do as a coach. I know a lot of us are in transition from our careers. I was a nurse and tried doing medical coaching, and that didn't work for me. And now I'm a family life coach, so it's evolving. But please share with us how this is working for you and what you'd like.
Yeah. Isn't that great? We can just evolve, just keep evolving, right? I love it. Yeah. So sure. I've been a therapist for a little over 16 years. And there was a point where I just felt I was doing kind of lots of different things. I was like you said, I'm a clinical social worker. I worked in the medical field for a long time. I was a medical social worker. I worked in criminal justice and substance abuse. And then I went into private practice and was doing doing private practice and then working in the other fields as well. And at some point, I felt like I needed something more. It was maybe felt really scattered. I felt like I needed more balance. And I just kind of needed to up level. And I was looking around for a while and I tried different things. And then I found the Health Coach Institute. Mm-hmm. And it really called to me. I think I needed to, I got my health coaching certification and it kept going from there, and just immersed myself in this world of coaching. And it allowed a lot more freedom with how I can work with my clients. And, but I guess also kind of stepping back from that, what I was able to create in my life, right, the impact in my life, which I didn't even really know, but it helped me in my career, right, and in my health and with my family as a parent, just created a lot more balance in my life and more happiness. And so it just made so much sense to use what, the skills I already had and just be able to create more with it and evolve in that direction.
It's so cool. And I think, one of the reasons that I like these kind of settings is, you can see where I live, I can see where you live, and that beautiful print on your wall that is literally right over your shoulder about, taking it backwards. I absolutely love it. And it's so apropos to the perspective of coaching. It feels that we are on this rickety, narrow, maybe unstable journey, and yet the coach allows for you to hold hands as you cross the bridge, right?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, right. You have that support, right? You have that support and that accountability and that guidance that is so important. We're not really meant to do everything alone, right? We need to have oftentimes in life, we need to have somebody kind of walk along the path with us.
Yeah, and I think that one of the heartaches in that, as I was mentioning earlier myself, sitting on the toilet, knowing that I'm, participating in domestic violence and ignoring that big picture that says, are you safe? Like, no, but I'm not going to take that piece of paper with the number on it and actually get help.
Right.
I fought it for so long, yet I knew that there was a necessity to stop this, and I just couldn't do it. And so many women tried to, befriend me, and I'd be like, leave me alone. I'm just wearing these sunglasses, So,
yeah. And that's the probably the biggest deterrent, right? Is there's parts of us that know, like you said, you knew that there was something that needed to change. You knew that this was not sustainable for you, and and you were not happy and all of these things, but yet there was a part of you or parts of you that were much more powerful in that game at the time. And that's just life, right? And
well, we all are there, how strong is that attachment?
Yes, yeah. I really like what you were talking about earlier, because it is true, right? We're attached to certain behaviors, right? Yeah. We're attached to, and like you said, like everything's a relationship issue. Right. And every relationship to self, which is like the most important relationship that we have, and that is going to really set the stage. That's going to determine our relationship to others, our relationships to alcohol, our relationships to food, to money, to our career, and that's why it's so important to come back to self and really look at, because there's these parts of ourselves that are working really hard, but yet are not, they're protecting us in some way and not allowing us to live our best life, to be happy. They're doing the opposite. Yeah.
I'm having fun in this conversation because this is why I love you. So what we're talking about is, coming back to self, right? And so in that, though, we can't see ourselves without the perspective of someone else. Yeah. Right? So isn't it curious that the hardest part is to come back to self and to invite somebody else in there to see us. Right, to show me who I am, right? And for me, it was Brian on Halloween when he said, I'm not going to live like this anymore. What is it's got to go? And he just lit up the room with that advocacy for himself. That I can't do this anymore. I can't. It was just so clear. And then I was willing to do everything after that moment. I worked. I did everything that I had to do to find sobriety and stay sober and become a better version of myself and get divorced and go to battered women counseling and all of that, right?
Wow.
But so what I wanted to ask you is so what is your attraction? Who do you invite into your coaching model? Who are the people that are served best by what you do?
Well, as a therapist, I'm a trauma and anxiety therapist. So I do a lot of work with healing, right? So healing old wounds, old experiences, and it's all about working with the body. And so and I really love that work. I love being able to help people heal and trust themselves again and love themselves again, and move in that direction. But that is working in mental health, and as a therapist, it's much slower, right? People are really stuck on that day-to-day basis, really stuck in whether it be clinical depression, anxiety disorders, or and we move on kind of on a slower scale. So in coaching, my focus is on emotional resilience and intelligence. And so typically, these clients are functioning, they have, more stability on a day-to-day basis. And so they're ready to kind of step into action, and they're ready to look at what is going on for them. And we can kind of look at a bigger picture and further off into the future for them, and taking the steps along the way, of course. So with that, it's really people that are, stressed at home, stressed at work, feeling burnt out, feeling uninspired, and then that manifests in taking it out, right, on themselves, or taking it out on their family members, taking it out, or isolating, and just sort of, moving through their day. But again, kind of like that guy, just, just walking through and not paying attention. And so at some point, when they come in, it's at this point where they're like, I can't live like this anymore, and I'm ready to do something about it. I don't know how or what, or, or where, but something needs to shift and change. And so this is about, again, it's kind of like we take different paths in these two, therapy and coaching. We take different paths, but sometimes we can end up in a similar place where it's really our ultimate goal, right? Is to feel good and to be happy and to create a life that we really want to be in and live. And so, and they're just, really ready to recreate that relationship with self.
That's wonderful. It's, I think what's really special about you as a coach is, this really, really strong clinical background in trauma and in what I call woundology, not me, but HCI, and how it manifests in our physical body, and how useful that wound is to how we function and what we recognize as our system.
Yes.
And then it just keeps getting worse. My back keeps getting worse. My weight keeps getting more. My depression keeps getting harder.
There's such a disconnect there. Yeah. I've been practicing mindfulness, that mind-body stuff for probably, about 20 years. But it really wasn't until I came into this deeper trauma work, and actually with the parts work, and that's that we learn about in HCI too, but just even going deeper into that, it wasn't until I did my own healing around this kind of somatic work that I was like, oh, this is what it's about.
Right.
This is healing. It's not just doing some breath work and meditation once in a while, and but this is about really that commitment. And I think that's really where it's at, and that's why some people don't come in, right? There's this commitment and time, and it's uncomfortable, and it's painful at times too, and not to scare people off, but on the other side of it, it's this whole, it's so worth it, right? And you just really see things from a different lens.
Right. Yeah, it's I think each coach has a different answer to this question about why people say no. Natalie last week said, I've got this, I can do it on my own. Oh
yeah, that's definitely one. I think people say no. I mean, probably like they think it's the money, or I can do this. Oh, I can read books and I can do this, right? I can do that on my own. I think, a lot of the underlying reason is belief in themselves. And, there's two things that are going to be very powerful and like essential in the work is that you have to believe, one, that the work is going to work, right? You have to believe that as I move through this, I trust in this process. And you have to believe that it's going to work for you.
Right.
Or at least in that direction, be open to that possibility that this is going to work for me. And there is a fear around that. There's a fear, and that's a whole nother probably podcast around.
Well, that's true. When I think that when I was, invited by so many very caring people to, get off the merry-go-round, I was like, no, I like being dizzy. This
is comfortable here. I like it. I know what to expect. Yeah.
I can't imagine not being on a merry-go-round. And although I was nauseous and sick every day and all of that stuff.
Right. Right.
What happens, I think, for a lot of us is when the student is ready, the teacher appears, right? And so what I hope for today is that if there is someone in the audience who has trauma in their life and is stuck in that cycle of, doubt and deservability, that there's the consideration that maybe Gina might be someone I can talk to and see what her program looks like and stuff. But we were talking before the show about some of the things that you have in mind going forward about like putting groups of people together to do this kind of work. And what I loved about that was when I was doing this battered women's counseling at Beth Israel Hospital, and there was like 4 or 5 women in the room. I was looking at these ladies and I'm like, you're all crazy. And they turned and looked at me and like, have you listened to your own story?
Right.
Like I couldn't see how insane my life was. And it was the mirror that they held up for me. And so I'm curious about what you think might come down the pike for you as a coach in this kind of setting.
Yeah. Well, especially now, right? People are feeling really isolated and not able to be with others. And I think it's so important, right? This connection, creating community, relationship, building and being able to be in a group of people and knowing that you're not alone, right? Knowing that your feelings, your emotions are not so rare that nobody understands you. That's the thing that really keeps people isolated is this is so unique, right? I'm so unique. And yes, you're unique. And it's really nice to feel that you're understood and people can get a felt sense of that for you as well and hold that for you. And so that's why I think groups are really important so that people can share what's going on for them. They can reflect and what I am, that's sort of where I would like to go more of is to create more of these groups and these communities where people can relate to one another and feel a part of something. And then get the skills that they need. And that's what this is about, getting skills around. It's also skill building, right?
Oh yeah.
Around what these emotions that are showing up for me, right? And how do I create more space for them so that they're not as uncomfortable and I can become more familiar with them. Yeah. And what you said earlier, I didn't use the word deservability, which I like you used it. And it's so true because I think that's a big thing is that some people feel in this time, I don't deserve to heal because of this. I did this, or I lived this way, or I, yelled at my kids or whatever it might be. But we get to evolve, right? We all deserve to shift and change and allow that space for ourselves, and we allow, for forgiveness and to be able to move forward.
Most definitely. You know what? I was on a Rotary. I was a guest at a Rotary meeting in California, and I felt like, what am I bringing to the table here? And the bottom line is that if we are broken, if we have this pain body that we're ignoring, so to speak, it shows up in how we communicate and how we do our jobs. And even if we're in service, like a Rotary is, to serve, foreign countries and our neighbors and everything, if the vibration of that has some kind of to it, then it doesn't have the gift of what you really truly intend for it to have. So when we think that I don't deserve this, the truth is that the world deserves it. Like the world deserves a better version of me, without my wounds and without my shame, than if I hold on to it,
because we're creating this, our energy and putting it out there as well. And the more that we heal, the more other people can heal too.
Yeah. It's the pebble in the water, right? Yeah.
I love that.
Yeah. Well, I could talk with you for days.
I know, we could talk about this stuff.
But I do want the intention of Strike a Match is to introduce to the audience that there are all kinds of different coaches. You're a trauma coach, and you're creating a new model down the road with these groups. And we'll post your website on the tags of this so that people can follow you. And so I just want to thank you so much for being my friend and being my guest today and co-hosting with me and sharing the possibilities of what being willing to be vulnerable and to do the work will do. So thank you so much, Gina.
Absolutely. Thank you so much. It was a pleasure being here and seeing you and talking with you. I loved it.
It's good stuff.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you next time.
Okay.
Okay. Bye.
Thank you.
You bet. So thank you. This is a wrap. So thank you so much, everyone, for being here, for listening in to the end. That's always such a cool thing to host, that the audience is there at the end. If you would like a copy of my book, Hope is for Always, and there's many authors in there, not just me, please just write to me, Terry Finnegan Lynch @gmail.com, and I'll send you a copy. And we look forward to having another episode next week. And I am delighted to say thank you to Enlightenment Radio for the commitment to positivity and for health and wellness of all. It's been a wonderful show, and thank you so much. Take care.